Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ghost Tea Podcast. I'm your host, Ariel Willow, a clairvoyant since childhood, paranormal investigator, and a witch. Today, we're going to talk about archangels, guardian angels, and demons. Oh, big topic. Let's get into it. But before we jump in, I want to remind you that everyone has different views on things, and that's okay. I don't ask you to believe what I do. I just want to share what I've found in my personal path with others. And with that said, let's go ahead and get into the discussion and the tea. It's a hot one here in Southern California today. I do not have air conditioning in my apartment, and my goal for next year is manifesting a place that has air conditioning. So let's all do that for me. Yay! Let's do it. All right, so let's get into the topic. So guardian angels, pretty much everybody is familiar with. They're just seen as these angelic beings that watch over us and help guide us in our everyday lives and in our paths and help us when we get into situations that are dangerous. And that is true. They do help us in that way. But they are more of like EMT in our spirit team. And what I mean by that is that we actually have our spirit guides doing most of the everyday work and guidance. Our spirit guides are usually the ones that are helping us on a daily basis, whereas guardian angels are just there to help us in certain times when we need some extra assistance. So although they are still an important part of our spirit team and guidance through our lives, I think that we put them kind of up on a pedestal and see it as more important than another, and that's just not the case. There's importance in every single being in our spirit team and why they're with us and why they're helping. Now, a lot of people ask me what the difference is between a guardian angel and an archangel, and there is actually a difference. So a guardian angel is just an angel that is assigned to you when you're born, and they stay with you until you die. And their goal is just to help you through life and help you through your experiences and protect you in dangerous situations where you did not consent to something happening that you wanted protection over, things like that. Archangels are source beings. So what I mean by that is that they come straight from source. They never actually incarnate into a physical lifetime anywhere. And they are only assigned to Earth. This is also another common misconception, is that if you're on Mars, you're going to be protected by angels. That's not the case. Guardian angels are only assigned to Earth. So if you've had a lifetime as an extraterrestrial, you did not have a guardian angel in that lifetime. As far as spirit guides go, I don't think we had spirit guides in other lifetimes. To be honest, Earth is just it's a shit show, and we need some extra protection here and extra guidance because we're little toddlers running around on a floating rock in space. So we just need some extra guidance here on Earth, which is why we have the spirit teams. And we just don't need it as much on other planets because we're more aware of how everything works spiritually, and we're more advanced in that sense. So we just don't need that extra kind of, shield against life. So now that we've kind of gone over archangels and guardian angels, what are demons? Now, this is really funny because a lot of people are going to disagree with me, and that's okay. I don't mind people disagreeing with me. My life is just lived to annoy people, apparently. But demons are source beings too. I know I'm literally going to disappoint so many people, but demons, yes, are the same as archangels and guardian angels. And I have heard of people talking about guardian demons. I haven't done any kind of research on that, and I haven't asked about that. So I can't at this time confirm or deny that that is a thing. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was, because why wouldn't we have guardian demons when we have guardian angels? Angels actually have no problems with demons and vice versa. And I think that's really, really commonly seen that way. And I can see why. And it's because society and textbooks kind of pin them against each other, because they always see that we have to have this like fight against good and bad and light and dark and stuff like that. And this is one reason why I don't call demons or beings that people would commonly say are dark beings. I call them deep, because our human nature is to be afraid of things that we don't understand. So when we experience a being, whether it's good or bad, it is deeper than we are. We are on a very shallow level energetically. So when we experience something that is very deep energetically, we get scared of it. And that doesn't actually mean that it's bad. It just means that it's more complex than we are. I know that I've said in many different ways over my podcast, there are so many different things that we can learn from really diving into our depths of what we are and who we are and spirit in general. I think there's so much to learn within darkness and in lightness when we explore the spiritual realms and ourselves and, all of these spiritual energies. I think there's benefits in both sides and both elements and the gray areas too. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't bad things out there. I'm not saying that there aren't negative beings, but I do think that the beings that we commonly associate as always being bad it's very detrimental to actually say that it's always bad. I think that there are good demons and bad demons, and I think that there are most likely good and bad angels too. I wouldn't be surprised if there are some angels that don't really have the best of intentions for us. Now, I don't know that archangels would really have bad intentions for us. They are assigned to help us in this lifetime, and they weren't assigned by someone. They chose themselves to help us in this lifetime. So they, out of their own decision, chose to be and assist us in this lifetime. So it was their choice. And I do believe that other source beings use that too. They made the choice themselves. I don't believe that they were created by some creator or God or entity in the sky that was like, hey, I decide to have angels, and poof, there they are. I think they decided to be themselves and choose to exist. So that's my personal take on that. But that's why I'm not afraid to work with demons. I'm not afraid to work with Lucifer. I'm not afraid to work with Archangel Azrael and Michael and Gabriel and things from both spectrums of what people see as good and bad, because to me, they're neutral unless I have reason to believe otherwise. And if I get a really, really bad feeling from something, I always check in with myself and say, am I feeling that this being or entity is bad because I'm afraid, or is it because I'm actually feeling some really bad vibes? I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's really, really important to be able to identify when you're actually scared and when something is actually bad. And I think that as humans, we are very, very scarable. We're very prone to being very terrified of things just because we don't know how to protect ourselves against them. And once you know how to protect yourself spiritually, a lot of the fear that you have regarding anything really in spirituality just doesn't really scare you anymore because you feel capable of taking care of yourself. And I think that's why I am so determined to help people feel confident in their spiritual paths, because I know that once I felt confident in my spiritual path, a lot of my fear just kind of melted away because I was like, oh, I can handle this. Like if I have a demon come to me and it doesn't really have the greatest intentions, then I can just be like, I don't want to interact with you and you have to leave now. And most of the time when I have had spirits come into my space or entities come into my space that I don't recognize or I do recognize, but they just don't feel good, I just say, you need to leave now. And they're just like, okay. And then they leave. And that's it. That's literally it. People have so much abilities and so much energy and so much power, but we don't utilize it because we doubt it, because we as humans are very much portrayed pretty much everywhere as these kind of wibbly wobbly weak beings when we are powerful, energetic entities within this fleshy meat body. So we have the power to say, hey, you have to leave, and have them just leave. We just have to be confident in ourselves enough to actually have the power to do that. I've said it on my TikTok a couple months ago, I think. Oh gosh, it's been a long time. I've been like kind of in a hiatus, but a couple weeks ago, or maybe a month or so ago, I posted a video because someone said they asked about exorcisms and how they work. If there isn't like a power over demons, or like there's a heaven and hell and stuff like that, or if, you know, there isn't a God, how can they have exorcisms be effective? And I honestly believe that the only reason why exorcisms actually are effective is because the priests doing the exorcism, or the people doing the exorcisms, actually have the confidence knowing that they have the power to expel those entities or energies from that person. And I don't actually believe in possession. I believe in channeling, and I do believe that you can be channeling something that is negative and not realize that you're doing it, and just be completely unaware, or be aware but just not know how to actually expel it from your energetic body. So I do believe in that sense that you can be taken over by something, but I don't believe that you don't have the ability to get rid of it yourself. I just think that most people don't know how to, which is why we have quote unquote possession scenarios, because possession to me says that you are taken over by something that you do not have the control yourself to get rid of. Whereas channeling implies that you are taken over, or you have welcomed in an energy that takes over your body and, you know, utilizes it in whatever way that it needs, but that you do always have the power to get rid of it. But some people just aren't aware of how to get rid of it because they don't realize that they're channeling. So I think that the reason why exorcisms work is because you have that confidence from the people doing the exorcism. They wouldn't go in and be like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Hopefully I can get rid of this thing from Joe. Like, no, they go in and they're just like, yo, you need to get out, like right now. And I don't believe that it is them saying you need to leave with the power of Christ. You know, the power of Christ compels you. Like, I don't believe that that has any power in it. But I do believe that the energy and the intention that they have behind what they are saying is what actually drives those energies out. So that's my personal take on it. Another thing that I wanted to go over before I close out this episode is the fall, because a lot of people ask me about this all the time. They're like, is there a heaven and hell? I don't believe that there is. And then they're like, well, if there isn't a heaven and hell, like what happened to the fall, and what was that whole thing? So the way that I understand it, and I've been told this by both Michael and Lucifer, so both sides of the coin, that the fall wasn't actually anything more than what we would just consider like an in-office disagreement. So when angels decided to be and take over, watch over Earth and the beings on Earth, there was two different sides of the situation. There were the angels that wanted more control in the situation of, like, I would describe it as kind of, this is the best metaphor that I can come up with. So excuse me for the terms that I'm using, but this is the best metaphor that I can come up with. So let's say that we have a human and they're like, okay, what are we going to do with this human? And that human represents all of human race, right? And one group says, I think we should have a maze that is very, very structured and lets them just go the way that we feel is most beneficial for them. And that way they just make their way through the maze, and then they come back over to the other side before reincarnating again. And then there was another group of beings that was like, I think they should have more free will. I think they should be able to, make things that, like, make decisions that feel like mistakes so that they're able to learn from it. And it helps them to advance more as a spirit because they're having more challenges that they're working through and problem solving. So instead of having the map or the maze be this one straight line or this squiggly line that you can't really mess up on, instead it changed more into a maze where it's more of your spirit going into dead ends and then being like, oh, this is a dead end. I have to go back and then go down a different way to find the exit. And it is annoying as a human to have to do that, but it helps us learn more. If you just have a straight line and there's no room for mistake, you're not actually learning any lessons. But if you're in a maze, you're going to figure out, oh, this is a dead end. I have to go back and figure out which way was the better way to go forward. So by the end of the maze, your soul feels more satisfied with that outcome because you know that you learned from your missteps and you were able to figure out and problem solve your way through that maze and make it to the end. And that can be really overwhelming, but it can also be something where when we get overwhelmed at those dead ends, our spirit guides and our guardian angels can come in and be like, hey, let's see where we misstepped or where we made the decision to go this way and see if we can go back there and then make a different decision. And it's not so much of like, haha, you failed, but more so of like, hey, you actually made a decision and that's cool, but this decision isn't going to take you where you want to go. So let's try a different way. And I think a lot of people see it as them kind of punishing us when it's really not the case at all. So the side of the angels or the beings that, because now I'm starting to think that it wasn't just angels, maybe it was actually demons part of that decision too, that there was some beings on one side that were like, we want them to have more free will and more room to make quote unquote mistakes or missteps so that they can learn more in their lifetime. And then there was another side of the beings that said, we just want it to be really, really simple and kind of a straight through experience. And that was the fall. That was it. And then they were like, actually, we're just going to find kind of a middle ground. We're going to find that some people will have the easier route. Some people will choose to have more complicated missteps so that they can learn more and experience more things on a deeper level. Because you do have beings that incarnate here as human and they have a very, very easy lifetime, seemingly. Maybe they have mental health issues or mental health struggles or, emotional struggles, but overall their life is pretty simple. Whereas then you have other people who are experiencing very complicated lives that have a lot of different twists and turns to them. So I think that it ended up being something where they find kind of a middle ground and have the option of when you're incarnating, you're like, you know what, I want something a little bit more complicated so that I'm learning more and experiencing more as a soul before I reincarnate again. And I know that this can kind of be disappointing to people because it's not some dramatic like angels falling out of the sky or, beings falling out of the sky or, Thor cracking down his hammer and lightning and thunder, and then all of these beings are just like falling from the heavens. It was nothing like that. It was just like, oh, well, let's just find a middle ground for what we do with humans. So yeah, I apologize for disappointing because I know that that's probably super boring, but that is what I understand of it, and that's what I've been told by the higher ups. So hopefully that helps answer your questions about that and helps give some clarity in that regard. But with that said, that's kind of all I wanted to go over today. So I hope you liked this episode. I hope it was informative and it helped you maybe see things from a different perspective or learn some new things. But as always, stay safe, stay curious, and keep learning. And for those interested in booking a session with me, you can do so by going to my website, www.arielwillow.com. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will talk to you guys later.